Hello everyone, and welcome to today's stream. It's going to be a really short stream today, just the duration of my usual first half, because of just some prior commitments personally that I need to take care of. But during this first half and only half of today's stream, I'm going to be working on Shadow Fox Gaming UK's BRB screen for his streams. So, I already have a fairly good idea of what I want to do, and I'm just going to start sketching that out. Or at least the rough concept of it. My idea is to kind of have just a door in the cobblestone. Why is Windows Ink doing that? That's not the button you're supposed to be pressing, Windows. Windows Ink is not allowing me to activate my eraser. Give me a second. Technical difficulties. Okay, I don't know what was happening there, because obviously some weird driver thing with my mouse and my tablet just completely screwed up out of nowhere, because I couldn't click anything for a good several minutes there. Like, it literally wouldn't let me click or even move the mouse outside of Krita for some reason, so, but it's working now, I think. So anyway, that was weird. Completely disrupted what little bit of focus I had. Today's kind of a chaotic day. But anyway, I think what I was about to say is today I'm going to try to start work on Shadow Fox Gaming UK's BRB banner. And the idea I have for it is kind of a door that's slightly open, sitting in a cobblestone wall. And and just kind of a sign right here saying I'll be right back, like kind of in this area. So that's what I'm gonna work on for today's much shorter stream. Just the super rough concept of this BRB screen for my good friend. Because I don't have much focus today anyway, and I don't really know why that is, but it's a good thing today's stream has to be shorter anyway for other unrelated reasons, because I don't think I could focus for the duration of my streams anyway. Frankly, I'm actually a little bit concerned about this channel, just because my streams keep having technical difficulties and stuff really frequently now, and I keep reducing the length and stuff. Starting to wonder if I actually should be live streaming, because frankly, I keep running into problems with it. So it's just really hard to do anything correctly. Actually, I should make the doorway a little thicker here and get rid of the door that I already drew, because it's not gonna line up with the perspective that I kind of put it in with the thickness of the doorway. So need to just get rid of that like so. And kind of want the door to attach to its hinges a little forward in the frame, but then swing back in the frame a little bit. So I'll do it like that. And then get rid of this little part here that the door is overlapping. And also add just a little gap on the left side here where the edge of the door is. Kind of do that. Clean things up just a little bit here. And I mean, this is just a very rough sketch outline thing. I kind of forgot to pester my friends to join the stream today, so they probably won't join just because I forgot to remind them. And even though I try to do this the same time every Tuesday, they still haven't put it on their calendars as a every Tuesday thing, so I have to keep manually reminding them. But I think I want the door to be kind of just an old wooden door, almost a little bit medieval, so I'm gonna add these lines like this to kind of make it into kind of a door made out of these wooden planks. My hand is not very steady today, not really sure why that is, because it's wobbling a lot more than I'm actually telling it to. It's just days like this where I can't be as good of an artist because my motor control just isn't there for whatever reason. But I mean, I make it work, but it's just not as good. Like, not as, I don't have as steady a hand as I usually do. And I could kind of split the boards a little bit toward the bottom. Because part of what makes things like this more convincing is the silhouette, even if it just has little details like that. Instead of being just a flat texture on a flat object, what I'm doing here is actually giving the boards individually some depth just by making a tiny variation in the silhouette here. And that, like, even as tiny of a detail as that is, it already makes the door feel that much more three-dimensional. And so that's an important little detail to add. And I'm going to do the same thing with the walls, or with the cobblestone wall that this is going to be in. When I do the cobblestones, I'll draw the cobblestones like this is the edge of a stone, but then I'm going to erase the door frame and actually make it kind of come out a little more to fit with the cobblestone, to kind of break up the silhouette so it's not just a straight line. But that'll be a later step for when I actually have all the cobblestones lined up and all that. Also, I just realized I'm using my keyboard instead of my XP Pen remote, so I'm going to turn that on, and maybe it'll help me get into the art mindset a little more, because just using my keyboard, like, mentally doesn't put me as much in the art mindset. It's more of like a video game programming mindset or whatever. Because that's what I've been working on lately, other than art, is a lot of Unity game development. So my mind is mostly still on that at the moment, and that's part of why I don't feel like I'm in an art mindset as much, because my mind is still kind of stuck on the technical coding and baking lighting and things like that. So it's art, but it's like a completely different kind of art. So I'm not in the mindset to be drawing as much right now, but this line's too perfect. I'm gonna erase this and redraw it with my wobbly hand, as straight as I can make it with my wobbly hand, and then it'll be just imperfect enough. Yeah. Just like that. And I feel like the perspective is maybe a tiny bit off with the door somehow. Like, the way the boards are spaced up here kind of looks two-dimensional. Almost like the boards in 3D space are kind of twisting a little bit, where, like, the further down the door, the more they twist. And it looks like this upper part of the door is directly facing the viewer, but then this lower part is actually facing away somewhat. And I'm not really sure what is causing that per se, but I'm sure I'll figure it out. Self-talking during these streams is actually a good part of my artistic process, because it helps me to figure stuff out that I wouldn't otherwise figure out, basically, just by talking to myself. It's amazing. I'm currently saving the document. Anyway, I'm sure that it has to do with the spacing between the boards somehow. Like, it almost, like, counterintuitively, it almost feels like they should be leaning like this instead of being perfectly vertical lines. Like, if I erase this, that board already now looks a lot more in perspective just because I leaned the line a little bit, which is weird because, I mean, according to the rules of perspective, that really doesn't make that much sense. I mean, the lines would converge at a vanishing point if the door was infinitely tall and you looked up at it. The top of the door would merge into just a single point. So I guess there is a tiny bit of that I could add to fix the perspective a little bit, but I'm actually not sure if it's 100% necessary. And I might just be overthinking things too. Maybe once I add the texture and stuff, like I add the knots and the rings of the wood, like maybe it won't be as much of an issue as I think it is right now. So we'll see. But yeah, I've realized I'm mostly just talking to myself about stuff, so what I'm going to do now is actually start work on the cobblestone outlines for this wall, and also where the sign is going to be right here that says "I'll be right back." I'm just going to quickly put in a square where that's going to be, and then I'll add cobblestones around the border and all that. But actually, I think I should increase my brush size just a tiny bit for that. Now the fun part of any cobblestone wall texture, which is drawing all of the cobblestones themselves in lots of varied but mostly round shapes. Yay! Usually I actually don't do it this way though. What I do, I think, now I remember it, is I actually do more just random shapes like this at first. And then I kind of turn those into cobblestone shapes as I go. But actually I say that, but then I realize it's not what I usually do. It's just part of the weird state my mind is in today where I can't fully focus on stuff. Where I keep thinking I do it one way, usually, but then I actually don't do it that way, usually. Oh well, I'm sure whatever method I use, it'll still look like cobblestone in some way. I think what I should do is kind of try to draw smaller cobblestones around the border of the door and then fill in the rest of the wall with bigger ones. Tom Scott recently released a video where he built a dry stone wall with a friend of his as part of his ongoing series of his road trip across England. And apparently I'm not British, so I don't know for 100% sure firsthand or anything, but apparently dry stone walls are all over England. And what these walls are is literally, they're called dry stone walls because there's no mortar or glue or anything like that. It's literally built just by stacking stones on top of each other in a really specific way. And what I learned from that video specifically about cobblestone patterns and stuff is that basically there's like, you put down a large stone and then you put in smaller stones called wedge stones or whatever to kind of hold them in place. And so what I'm trying to do in this image now is actually, as I think about it, I'm trying to replicate the dry stone wall look just a little bit by kind of employing those same building techniques more or less just in my art here. And I mean, it makes sense for Shadow Fox Gaming UK to be like to have his Twitch TV art kind of inspired by Dry Stone Walls a little bit, because he is British, as his name implies. You know, the UK is literally right there in his name. So it, like, I want a little bit of that British heritage or whatever to be in his Twitch TV art. And so I think it's really fitting that I try to somewhat mimic the building techniques of Dry Stone Walls, because I mean, he's a British Twitch streamer, so it'd be cool to have British cobblestone in his British stream. But I mean, that's just a lot of overthinking stuff. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what techniques I actually use. Cobblestone is just easy to draw, and it'll look like cobblestone no matter what I do, basically. So it's just kind of my own logical processes, but it really doesn't matter that terribly much what I do, because cobblestone just looks like cobblestone no matter how you draw it, basically. Because there's so many different kinds of cobblestone in the world that, like, it's just really easy to draw. You just draw a bunch of random, somewhat rounded shapes close together, packed together, and you have cobblestone. It's not the hardest thing in the world to draw. So I actually should just merge these two layers down and do it all on one layer, I'm realizing, because I keep wanting to erase stuff and not being able to because it's on a different layer. And I'm already doing a bunch of detail work here, even though I really don't need to, per se. So I haven't even filled in the rest of the overall picture here with cobblestone. So I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here to already be filling in these details, but similar to the custom rug I worked on in the last stream, which is also cobblestone. So I'm getting really good at this because it's basically all I've been drawing lately. Cobblestone this, cobblestone that. Lots and lots of cobblestone. I am the cobblestone king. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. It's a very meditative process to draw cobblestone because it's like, it's tedious in the good way that art often is, where you can just kind of turn your brain off and just do the thing for who knows how many hours that you work on it. Even though this stream overall is really only going to be about a half hour long, and we're almost done with it. In fact, it was a very short stream today, and the technical difficulties toward the beginning certainly don't help. But I'll just merge these two stones, make it a long, weird, skinny stone. But I mean, for this short stream, I at least got a little bit of work done today. I think I am ending it like fairly soon though, because I really was only going to do half of the stream today, because I have to get ready to go somewhere at 1, and that's usually the time that I would still be streaming, but I can't do that today, so. But one thing I like to try to do in these streams is always give a little bit of artistic insight to my thought processes and stuff, so that people watching the recording or the stream can learn something, hopefully. And so if there's anything to pick up from this stream educationally, I would say it's always pay attention to the silhouette of things. Because the silhouette, no matter how small or how detailed, is ultimately what your brain picks up on when you're looking at an object. And so it's not enough to just draw the cobblestones. I have to make sure that there's like little crevices and stuff, because that's what gives it depth and gives it a feeling of being three-dimensional, is the varied silhouette. If it's just a straight line that happens to have cobblestones on it, it reads a lot more as like a fake painting of cobblestones and not like they're actually there. Because the silhouette is ultimately what tells your brain what something is shaped like, and not just the texture. And so silhouette ultimately is the most important part of form when it comes to 3D, like drawing stuff in 3D and art. Because surprisingly, even though it's kind of counterintuitive, our brains aren't perceiving the shape of objects, believe it or not. Our brains are actually perceiving the space around the object. And so it's important to get the negative space right, more than it is to get the positive space right. Because if you get the negative space right, then the positive space is already correct by default, because that's literally just how it works. There's really, the concept of positive space is kind of an optical illusion, really, because just the way our brains are wired and how the cones in our eyes work, or was it the rods, I don't remember, but like the way we perceive things, we're paying attention to differences in value, in how bright or dark things are, in order to tell where something is in 3D space. And so it's really the outer silhouette of the space around the object that determines what it's shaped like, and not so much the actual shape of the object itself. So that's my understanding anyway. I could be completely scientifically wrong about all of that, but as an artist, that's kind of how I think about positive space versus negative space, is that we perceive the negative space primarily, and then the positive space just kind of is an illusion that naturally results from the way we perceive the negative space. So anyway, it's about 12:30, and I think that's when the stream ends. So let me check. When does it end? 12:39. So we have like 10 minutes left. 10 minutes worth of me doing cobblestone building a dry stone wall around a door, and hoping that it looks at least somewhat decent in the process. But yeah, in regards to the silhouette, notice that I'm intentionally kind of breaking up this straight line with some of the more rounded cobblestone edges, and then erasing the straight line. It's all just to make it look convincingly like a cobblestone wall that has all these different shapes and stuff in it. This is gonna be real fun to shade. But it'll be fun regardless, I'm sure. Especially with the light coming through the door and stuff. that I'm picturing. Like, I'm picturing the stone wall is kind of dark and the grass in front is a little bit dark, but then there's a bunch of light coming in through the door. That'll be cool. I wonder if I should do specific video uploads on this channel of live stream clips. Just clips from these live streams that are specifically important or informational or whatever. Informative, I mean. I think that would be good. Because right now this channel has 2 animations and a whole bunch of streams on it. Not exactly the formatting I would like the channel to have. And I'm kind of, as I draw these, I'm trying to intentionally make them kind of wobbly, random shapes. Because it would be way too easy to just draw a bunch of circles like this. And that would look like cartoony cobblestone. It would work, but it doesn't really look good. It doesn't really read as much as cobblestone. So as I'm working on these stones, I'm intentionally kind of trying to break up the shape language, or whatever the term is, just so that they're not all the same. In fact, I don't want any 2 stones to really be identical, if at all possible, because the reason it's called cobblestone is literally because it's a bunch of stones cobbled together. And stones never are the same shape as each other. That's just not how rock works. It gets worn down by different forces, it gets imported from God knows what corner of the world. You know, there's different minerals inside of each rock. Different workmen handling the rocks, and some of them are drunk, maybe. Who knows? Like, who knows what influences the shape of the individual stones in a cobblestone wall? It could be anything and everything, so it's good to make sure that that there are just a lot of different interesting shapes that kind of make up the overall wall. I think I'll make a big old kind of almost triangular stone here. Something a little bit more square-ish here. And part of what influences the shape of each stone as I draw it is just the space that I'm putting it in. Like this is kind of a curve here, so I imagine the stone would be kind of curved like that, or like this. This is more of a square-ish shape, so I kind of do that kind of thing, deformed square. This is more triangular, so I'm gonna do this sort of thing. You know, it's just a balance between making interesting shapes and making them fit, basically, but not fit perfectly, because that's where you get all these interesting gaps between the stones that really help it read as a cobblestone wall. is by just leaving some gaps. What was I saying about that? I feel like this needs to come down more like that, and this stone needs to come down more like this to kind of fit the shape of the ground. And I'm also gonna, now that I'm finally at the edge of the picture, I'm gonna just have the stones go off of the edge of the picture to imply that there's more wall to the right and that the picture itself isn't necessarily the wall in and of itself. Because bleeding things past the frame of your artwork is the best way to kind of make it feel like a window instead of just a picture. Because if you look out your window, like right now, as the audience member, just find the nearest window and look out it. And specifically look out at some random object that is like toward the edge of the window. Be that a tree or the road or a car, just whatever you see, look at the edges of the window and observe that everything at the edges is cut off. It doesn't end perfectly at the edge of the window every time. In fact, it rarely does. So the best way to, one of the best ways to draw your viewer into your artwork is to intentionally bleed stuff past the edges of the canvas, because when you do that, it gives the illusion that there's more that isn't being seen, and thus it's like a window that you're looking through out into a different world and not as much just a picture, if that makes sense. Because discontinuity always visually implies that there's more. If something suddenly ends and there's an abrupt interruption in the continuity, you know intuitively that there's got to be more to it. It's like this cobblestone here that I just drew, and I can demonstrate this because it's Krita, and Krita actually stores pixels outside the canvas. But like this cobblestone right here, this one, you can see it goes off the edge, but your brain already intuitively knows that there's more of the stone there, and that's because there is. If I can get Krita to do this, you can see there's this whole edge of the cobblestone, but you just don't get to see it because it's not in the frame of the window. So, just having the stone interrupted at the edge kind of tells your brain, yeah, there's more stone here. So, anyway, I'm going to end the stream on that note, since it has to be a short stream today. But I hope that whoever watches this really short stream recording at least learned a couple things about silhouette and about just what I was just talking about, how to immerse your viewer in your artwork just by using discontinuity at the edges of the frame. But anyway, this has been today's short stream. Wish I could continue the whole time. I can't because of time constraints. I gotta go in about a half hour. So, it's been fun. I'll see you all next week. Bye.